Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 90% podcast. My name is Michael,
And I'm Nick.
and today is a very special addition to the 90% podcast. And when I say very special, I mean it's special because every episode is special. So, this episode, Nick and I are going to be talking about basically what it was like growing up pre elementary school years and just kind of talking about what it was like as twins and kind of the struggles and the positives that went into all of that. So if you're interested in listening, get ready because here we go.
This is exciting.
Yeah, this will be good.
I said it in every single one.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be exciting.
I think all of them are exciting. I don't know how everyone else perceives them, but I mean, we're just here to give you.
We're going to have that one fan who just stalks us and is just like, you guys suck.
You'll be like, this is terrible. And be like, well,
You're probably right.
It is terrible, but that's kind of the point of this show.
They're probably 100%ers. They're looking for everything to be flawless.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're 90%.
True.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's just get started then. So growing up, you and I had a pretty normal life, I would say, for the first 5 years.
Oh, my God.
Why'd you do that?
Well, I just didn't want my wallet being all chunky on my thigh, so I threw it on the couch.
Oh, okay, cool. So anyway, the first 5 years of our lives were probably pretty normal. Would you say so?
Yeah. That's a hard age to remember, though.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if you think about it, a lot of people do not remember those first 5 years.
No.
But from what I can remember growing up, I mean, it seemed like we had pretty normal life. You know what I mean? Compared to at least the next 5 years that follow, right?
Yeah. There was a lot going on between 5 to 10, but this one's all about 0 to 5, I guess.
Yeah, so that's what we'll do.
What's your earliest memory, like, ever?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked this question because somebody had asked me about this a few weeks ago.
Who?
I believe it was my mom. And by my mom, I meant your mom and both of our moms.
That's true. We do have the same mom,
Yeah, we are twins, by the way.
obviously.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But anyway, she had asked something along the lines of what it was like when we were kids, and I think
She was there.
Well, yeah, she knows it all, but she was asking like,
Your perspective?
yeah,
Okay.
it was one of those situations where I was trying to think back to how it was when I was a kid and whatnot, and basically, I'm not sure if I remember this and I just never forgot it, or if this was a situation where it kind of sparked a memory in my mind and now I remember it. I'm not really sure which one it was, but basically there's a video of you and I when we were 3 or 4 months old, and we're laying in the hallway that connected our bedroom to like the living room or whatever.
Ray's Ranch, if you ever been in one.
Yeah, so they're all kind of set up the same, and our bedroom is at the end, and there's like a video of you and I in like these light green feety pajamas. And I remember when I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. Remember we used to have all those baby cassettes that we used to watch our videos on.
Oh,
And stuff.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, we're 21 now. At
The year's
the year of filming this podcast.
2021. So
Yeah. So this was literally in the year 2000.
People calling us young. That's cap. We were there for the tapes and the before the records.
We saw all the crazy stuff. But
Hardly. We
yeah.
were like babies, but
Exactly. But even so, I remember, there's a video that exists that our mother was recording on a camcorder that our father must have owned, right? And you and I were just like looking up or whatever, you know? And
okay.
I can remember vividly, and I'm not sure if it was the spark of the video or if I just never forgot it from that. That was just my earliest memory. But at that age, I actually remember the moment and I never forgot it after that. And it was basically, that was just her filming us laying there on the ground next to each other.
How old were we?
We were probably, people might call me crazy, but I want to say we were a couple months old, like 4 months, 5 months.
I call it cap.
You think?
I just feel like that's too
Well,
young for memory.
Here's the thing is, like, I remember the video being taken, and we were, like, laying in the dark almost. There was light coming from the living room, and we're, like, let's say this is the hallway. We're, like, laying right here, and our door is right here.
Yeah.
Here's the hallway, you know what I mean? And the light is, like, right here, and our mom's standing above us, kind of blocking the light. And she was, like, this big silhouette of this, like, and I remember her, like, her voice was very beautiful. And it was just, like, kind of the craziest experience.
That is weird.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will call it cap, and you don't believe me, but I remember it distinctly. And that was probably my earliest moment.
Like, months into life, you were, like, memorizing.
I don't know. Like I said, it could have been one of those things where when you're 4 or 5 years old, you start to remember things kind of a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you got to think at that age, there was a past. There was 4, 5 years prior to that moment where you have memories stored up. Even though at 21 years old, you might not remember them. For whatever reason, at that age, having those videos to, like, reflect back on, even at that age, I was able to remember moments just to remember them. And now, at, like, 21 years old, I don't really remember a lot of the cassette tapes that we watched at that 4 to 5 year span, but I do remember the distinct moment that it kind of just, like, never shied away from me, which was kind of crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I always stick by it because I feel like I remember that moment from 2 different perspectives, watching it from the lens of the camera and from my own perspective at literally, like, 4 months old. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
See, I can't remember that far back, honestly.
Yeah.
But I remember around, like, 3, 4, 5, those ages. Like, distinctly, you and I were very close, right? So if we're around each other 24/7, you're obviously, like, my best friends. So as kids, do you remember when we had our first interaction with, like, other kids? Like, obviously we had our cousins that we hung out with around our age, and then you have family members, your aunts and uncles. But outside of that, at that young age, you don't really meet a lot of kids so much. But do you remember going to preschool and being, like, really nervous? Like, this must have been 4 years old. I don't know if you remember, but from my perspective, this is a funny story. I remember going into our nursery. I guess it was like a preschool. We must have been 4, probably 4. And at this point, I feel like I had a great memory. We always did we had our sippy cups, and I used to eat Cheerios in a bag. And I would just be, like, vibing in the back seat of a car. I don't even know. Like, had we had AC at that point, who knows? Not a lot of cars were. It might have been an older car.
It was like a Saturn,
Maybe a Saturn.
or even like
Can't be too sure.
an old Chevy Impala.
Parents would know better than us. I don't know why we're talking about but it doesn't matter. This is from my point of view.
Yeah, and then someday we'll have them on and have them speak on these other little kinks and tell their stories. But
yeah. So I remember going in the preschool, and they might have had, like, an orientation going on, and they were, like, introducing all the other kids. But for some reason, when we walked into the preschool, it's basically just a giant room. Like, it's not like an elementary school where there's hallways and classrooms and stuff. Like, for this was almost like a big player room with, like, this mini jungle gym set. There were some tables in the back with, like, a chalkboard or dry erase board. And then they had, like, the bathroom and little windows. But it was weird, and it was almost built into, like, a basement, more or less. Because you had your outside area where you'd play, and there was, like, a fence, and then there was, like, the main road, kind of a busier road. And then we had, I don't know, just this big room was kind of where it was. And do you remember going down there with our mother for the first time? We had our little backpacks, and I couldn't be sure if it was the first day or if it was just kind of an introduction, but she was with us like I think the whole time.
Yeah, it might have been. I kind of remember what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so when we went down there, do you remember just seeing all the kids kind of like stare at us and they were just like life like kids at like 4 or 5, how old,
Yeah.
there's not much, but just like kids just stare. So for you and I to see that many people, do you remember being like super attached to our mother, like we don't want to go, we were just really shy, wouldn't you say?
Um. Yeah. Well, aside from the fact that we had cousins growing up for those 4 or 5 years, we knew of other children. It wasn't like we were isolated.
Yeah,
But
makes it sound like we're like,
yeah. But I do remember, like, for example, we'd see kids at the park because we'd be down at the Hampton Manor Lake or wherever.
yeah, but we didn't want to play with them, we ignored them.
Yeah, it's true. We never really associated with kids other than our family to that point. So when we walked into that environment, I do remember it being like we're going to school, so we knew what school was. Mom had hyped it up for years and been like, "Oh, we're gonna go to school soon." And it's probably hard for her, just even though it was pre-K, right? But yeah, I remember like walking in there, and there was a lot of people that looked just as nervous as we were, probably. You know?
True. But anyway, this is a funny age because this is probably as far back as my memory could go. Preschool, they're the found. It's kind of like the beginning before you go into an obviously elementary school. But I feel like those years of, you know, drawing. I remember doing like ABCs, like real, just learning how to hold a pencil, interacting with different kids. Like those are really kind of crucial years. I feel like you and I fared kind of well, but what do you think? I guess, how do you think we reacted with other children? Do you think we did like a good job, or do you think we stood out? Do you think we were so associated with each other that we didn't care what other kids were doing? Where was your mind at like 4?
So it's funny you ask because I feel like I remember more prior to preschool than I did in preschool. And
Oh, really?
yeah, kind of. I don't know.
You don't
But
remember preschool?
I kind of remember it a little bit. But I mean, if yeah, I remember like the room and some of the stuff we did. And it was kind of crazy. I'm going to cut you off before I answer this question because literally last week I went to the dental office like right nearby. So where I go to the dentist is literally like neighboring where we went to preschool, right?
Oh, okay.
And I was like turning in to the place or whatever, and I see all these little preschoolers out on the front lawn, like towards to the side, and they were crossing the street or whatever, and literally, I had my window down, and one of the girls like screamed for the teacher, and she said her name, and it literally like brought me back, and I was like, wait a minute, these two that ran the show in 2004,
Oh, the teachers were the same
the
teachers?
same two teachers literally were crossing the kids across the street
They're
in
still there.
in 2021. So literally,
2004.
and it was crazy because it actually brought back my memory of who they were when we were there,
Yeah.
and it's just like obviously everyone gets older, and it was just an older version of like who I remembered, and it was kind of crazy because you go so long after not seeing somebody, and then it's just like holy moly, like that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought I'd share. It was kind of
That's
crazy.
cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So the same too. No, but nothing's changed.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, from like your perspective, do you think we didn't care about making friends? I mean, let's be honest. In elementary school, I'm not talking about like building friendships, but like, did we care about other children and what they were doing? Like,
Yeah.
I would say, from my perspective, I remember you and I just not caring about anybody but ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
we were so in our own world while everyone else was playing
Mm-hmm.
that we just didn't. I feel like we just didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely early on it was one of the situations where I don't think we fared too well with the other children because they didn't understand us. And what I mean by that is not that Nick, you and I were different from any other kid. It was just that we understood each other so well, it was more comfortable to just stick to what we knew. You know what I mean? And I think that might have stunted our ability to communicate and associate and diversify ourselves at a young age.
Yeah.
just for that portion of our life, at least. I mean, eventually we did make friends there for sure. But at first, we would show up with the matching outfits.
Yeah, our mom used in the mornings. She would just comb our hair,
Hmm.
and we'd have these preppy outfits on,
Yep.
usually striped, and then we'd have probably like Skechers.
We'd have
and,
like suede sweater vests
yeah,
with like khaki pants and these like Walmart shoes.
yeah. But to be fair though, like we looked kind of lit.
Yeah, I kind of wish I still dressed like that, but if I dressed like that,
We had good etiquette,
yeah.
like.
Well, it's good parenting, right? You just buy what's cute and make your kids look cute, right? We weren't in charge of what we wore back then.
But
obviously.
the funny thing was like we didn't develop any of those care. Like it wasn't until like middle school we didn't even care about what we looked like. I swear.
Well, yeah, because we just wore whatever we liked.
Yeah, which I think is an important thing if you're a parent.
Yeah.
Or you have children at some point. I'm gonna be the same way. I'm gonna have my kids not think twice about what they're wearing.
You shouldn't have to worry about it at that age. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's more about like
yeah.
having fun and like learning the important pieces of schooling and stuff like that.
True. Weren't we? And this is funny. Weren't we like really good friends with Mike and Nick?
Yes. So funny. I completely forgot because one of those kids that we had just mentioned went to school with us. There was like 4 or 5 mics in
in like high
all
school.
of our high school. But I mean, one of them was in pre-K with us.
Yeah.
And
didn't the other one go to a different school district?
yeah, and then the other one went to a different school district, and I'm not sure if he even remembers us or whatnot. But I know that even the one went from all the way from pre-K up till like literally college with us,
True.
which is kind of insane if you think about it. It's weird how we're not closer, but I mean that's the way the world goes, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's just kind of crazy when you put those things into perspective. Like you see so many people come and go in your life, and some people almost remain a constant, even if you don't, expect them to be.
True. So. Yeah, that was a weird story, but this is the reason I brought up pre-K, particularly around those ages, is I have something that you might remember that I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the time when our mother forgot to wave to us? Now let me run this back. So like I said, like this. Do you remember like how the preschool was basically like a basement, and that sounds super sketchy and scary, but it was a finished basement. There was like windows. It's just there was the ground was like up higher than where the floor would be. And then you'd have windows at the top, just like every other basement you could think of. But there was a lot of light coming in, and they had natural light, and that was fine. But you'd kind of walk down these steps to go down to, like, the building, right? Because it was down below. And I think above there was, like you said, there was, like, a dental office and probably, like, a tax and finance place or something.
Yeah.
And I remember every single day that you and I would climb on top of this like jungle gym that was centered, and it wasn't a big one. It was just like it was like a slide and probably like a ladder right in the center of this room. And we'd go up there, and you and I would sit there, and our mother would wave. She'd bend down. She'd go, "Hi, guys."
Yeah.
She'd go, "See you later. I'm going to work." And she would do that like every single day when she dropped us off. And then one day, she forgot. So you and I climbed up on the steps. We said goodbye when we were putting our book bags and coats on the hook. But then we went up to the top of this like playground set, and we just waited. And I remember I was just like sitting there like, this is taking a long time. But I don't know. I don't think I thought about it too much at the time. But she told us from her perspective, and it's really funny. She went to her car. She started driving. She said something felt odd. And then when she was basically out of the parking lot on her way to work, she said, "Oh, no." She was like, "Oh, God." So she turns around, drives back, flies into the parking lot, parks her car. She runs up, goes up the steps, and then she looks down at the window, and she waves to us, and we're still there. And you and I were just waiting, like, patiently, just like, "Oh, hi, Mom,"
Yeah.
But what would have happened, do you think, if had she left? And I think this is a good point that I want to say with like our attachment and us not caring about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I were so focused on each other, and we like loved our mothers so much, and we were just like everything else just didn't matter, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering, like, do you think you would have like freaked out and like been like, is there something wrong? Like, have you ever thought twice about what would have happened?
It's hard to tell kind of where our minds were at, especially then.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good and bad thing that we had such an attachment to our mom. You know what I mean? Because obviously we're mommy's boys, even to this day, I feel like a little bit. But
definitely.
You know, that's okay. It's just how it is. And I know for a fact that, you know, we just had a crazy relationship with our mother, you know, from 0 to 5 years old. If we weren't at our grandparents' house, like, she pretty much did it all, right? She like brought us to playgrounds and anywhere. So I mean, that day, I guess, when she didn't show up, maybe we were waiting and we were worried, but I don't know. It could have been, maybe she would have just stopped doing it, and we would have never known. But I guess I do remember doing that, actually, now that you say it. Like every day.
So goofy.
Yeah.
I remember one time when it was an election year. It was 2004. So they, for some reason, they used to do this even in elementary school, middle school, and high school, whatever. They would do these fake elections, or, you know, and they would just have kids vote. But at 4 years old, nobody is voting for, you know, George Bush and whoever else was running. I don't even know.
Yeah. It'll come to me, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, our history is bad. Anyway, so they had these puppets. They had like, I don't know, probably like this squirrel with like a hat, and let's say, for example, like a teddy bear with like a scarf. And they put them up on this shelf. And us as kids, we were just sitting there, you know, crisscross applesauce, just doing our thing. We're just looking around, listening to the teacher. And they're like, and they had this voting booth. Like, they put up a shower curtain, and they had this cardboard box set up, and they had like, they had booths. Like, it looked official.
Yeah, I actually remember this now.
Right, for like preschool.
What the heck? I can't believe you have these recollections.
Yeah, so for like preschoolers too. And so basically they printed out all these sheets, and one was for like the bear, and the other one was for like the squirrel with the hat.
Yeah.
And the whole objective was just teaching us how to pick a side. Like, that was the goal. Like, just vote. And there was no like this bear is bad, this one's. They were like even candidates, and they didn't persuade us one way. And that's not the point. Like, we're not trying to say that the squirrel with the hat's cuter. Like, there's no goal. But the point was just, can you pick a side? Like, that was the fundamental skill of a preschooler. So there was 2 boxes, right? It was like the squirrel, the bear. They all gave us like these pencils, or like could have been pens. I don't even know. And they're like, okay, if you want the bear to sit up on the shelf, just make a check mark by the bear in the square. If you want the squirrel with the hat to sit up on the shelf for a week, just check mark it here. But do not check both boxes. And everyone was like, like, okay, like we can do that. And there's probably like, I don't know, 20 kids in our class. And so everyone went in by themselves because we couldn't get persuaded. Like, the whole goal was like privacy. So we're in there, and I went in and I panicked. I was like, what are the directions? I didn't even know what I was doing. So I'm like, and I don't know. Maybe I just felt bad for the squirrel, like, because I thought the bear was good. I don't know. So I'm sitting there. I checked both boxes, right? And I'm almost crying. Like, I'm like, I don't know. That seems wrong, but I don't know. I fold the piece of paper, and then we slip it in like the little box with the slit that they cut open.
Yeah.
And then what they were going to do is they're going to tally them all up. So anyway, everyone goes through. And then we sit down on the rug, and they sit down, and they're like, okay, we're going to calculate the results. Everyone be quiet. Shh, you know? And everyone's like, okay. So I'm sitting there shaking. Like, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, this is not good. I look over at everyone else, and no one's caring. And I'm like, I messed this up. Like, what if it comes down to me?
Yeah.
Like, what if this is a tiebreaker and I messed up?
Yeah.
Anyway, there were nameless ballots because you're not supposed to, like, share. Like, that was the whole point, too. Like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be private. They opened up the ballots, and our teacher starts reading them. And they're like, 1 for the squirrel. And everyone claps. Put the squirrel down. 1 for the bear. Puts the bear one down. And then, like, the third one in, they were like, oh, no. And everyone just, like, comes in. And then they turn the paper, and they're like, what did we say about marking both things? I start crying. I'm like, this is bad. I'm panicking. I literally I have my hand in my eyes, and I can't even contain myself. And then they put it down because I'm like, that was me. And then they pull out the next one. Same thing. They go, oh no, who put both, who checked both boxes?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then anyway, the whole point is by like the end of the election, they literally just stood there just mad at us. And they were like, 10 of you voted both boxes. It was one or the other. Like, how clear could we be? And the whole class was, like, so upset. So we did I think we did a recount. And like, 4 or 5 people still didn't get it.
My God.
I know I was one of those 4 people.
Oh, my gosh.
But I just remember.
I guarantee that I was one of them, too. I was probably that dumbass, too.
Yeah.
You know what it probably was? It's probably a chain thing where, like, people are waiting to vote. And they're like, who are you voting for? Who are you voting for? And then, like, someone's like, I'm voting for the squirrel and this and that. And when we get in the thing,
I
like,
just didn't want either one to lose, I think. I just cared.
Maybe that's just the sympathy that children that age have, or like the innocence or
I
whatever.
just don't know.
It's cute, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember going on, like, playgrounds?
I remember the playground that was at our preschool. It was small. It was just like a bunch of different, like, playhouses and stuff like that. But you know what's funny about our preschool is, like, obviously our preschool is going to be in our district, our school, like, you know.
Yeah, it's around where we live. Obviously.
Right. So I would assume most kids that go to this place would be in our school district as we go through K through 12. And I could not tell you when I saw this picture. Could have been a couple months ago. Could have been like 4 years ago. But there was a picture of all the kids from preschool. And
with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, let's say, for example, 20 was the amount. I'd say like 17 or 18 of them ended up going, to school with us.
Yeah.
Like, all through high school. And it was crazy because a lot of the times I remember talking about preschool with certain people and just being like, we'd talk about, like, oh, yeah, preschool did and then someone would be like, I remember that. You know what I mean?
How was that preschool?
Yeah, and then we'd be like, really? And then, like, as we get older, you start talking to people, and then they have the same story that you have, and you realize, like, oh, my gosh, we were all there together.
And no one even knew.
And no one knew.
So, like, there's 5 elementary schools where we went, so, of course, it's going to be split up.
Yeah.
Based on where you were. But that's funny that you saw that.
So maybe there was 3 or 4 that went to our elementary school, and then the rest went to others, but it wasn't until middle school or high school
you got to, like,
that we would reunite with any of them. You know what I mean?
Oh, that makes sense.
So, looking back at it when we're, like, about to graduate or whatever, it's like, oh my gosh, the entire pre-K class that has no association with our school district had all these kids.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
So, yeah, so it'd be like all the people we knew from high school.
Yeah,
and then we'd look back and be like, oh, look how cute they were. And they were
Exactly.
kids. But they were hanging out with us already.
Right. So
we thought we met them for the first time at, like, 12.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not true. Gotcha.
But if you were in our preschool class, and I know there's got to be at least one person watching this
I feel like there has to be one.
that went to our preschool. please leave a like and a comment and let us know if you remember
So-
anything
yeah.
about preschool.
Send us a picture
Yeah. If you have any stories or anything. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Remember one of our best friends, Jaden? I'm sure we'll have him on at some point.
Yeah.
His girlfriend,
Currently.
his current girlfriend literally was one of those kids. And we're good friends with both of them, and we hang out all the time. It's just crazy how, you know, I remember the video she showed us like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Yeah.
it was a video of you and I on graduation day. And it's just like one of those pre-taped videos, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh, look at the kids. They're so
Yeah,
cute.
like a dad with like the 2004 with the date in the corner and stuff, like those.
Oh, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, like an old film. And they were watching the old films when she was a kid, and she just happened to have the entire line of graduates, and you and I come down the stairs, and this kid in front of us jumps, and then you go, oh, and then you jump, and then I follow you, and I'm like, you're jumping too? So we jump off the staircase.
Like we're badasses.
Yeah, like we like really own this place.
Yeah, we had, like we said, we had bowl cuts and the striped shirts.
Yeah.
I think our grandfather used to cut our hair up until that point.
Yeah, we hated haircuts. I know that much.
He liked giving us haircuts, but we didn't sit still.
No, we just didn't enjoy that whole process.
Yeah, so we look kind of goofy, but I'm sure it was worthwhile. Longer hair looked okay.
Yeah, we were just like little preppy white kids.
True.
Whatever.
That was I don't even think we had an aesthetic. I just think we just did not care.
Yeah, still don't really care, but whatever.
Yeah, we look like bums.
Yeah, but anyways, I mean, that was kind of it to that point for preschool.
Yeah, what a crazy time.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think as we got older, we're just totally different people.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, obviously, I think everybody is, but it was definitely like the introduction to us being independent people, and it was cool. Even though we were together and through a lot of it,
Yeah.
we learned, different stories, different lessons about life, and it was just the introduction to 13 more years of schooling.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So
Yeah. Well, I think on the next episodes we're down to talk about our life as we get a little bit older, and we're going to keep that theme for a few more
yeah, the next
episodes.
couple episodes will feature kind of a 3 or 4 part series, maybe even longer, into kind of what our life was like growing up together, and our journey as people, and the way that we grew, or even the struggles we went through. So
Yeah, and it'll be fun.
yeah, so
It'll be cool to hear the perspective of two twins who are so close, especially because maybe if you're a child that you don't have any siblings, or you feel like you're not very close to your siblings, it'll be really cool to have two people who have different perspectives of the exact same situation. So if you want to tune into those, subscribe to our channel, and then put on post notifications to see when we post a video.
Mm-hmm.
Also, remember, folks, if all you can do is give 90% today, that's all that matters. Save that 10% for yourself. And if you're feeling down, make a glass of orange juice. If you don't like orange juice, you can have apple juice. Or you can have water, because
Or chocolate milk.
chocolate milk's good too.
Just make yourself a drink.
Yeah, a drink.
21 plus, 5 months old, whatever.
Just make yourself a drink and be proud of that, Even if you're on a diet, that 10%, that'll save you.
Yeah. Save that 10% for yourself, as always. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again. Peace.